I never believed reports of anomalous disappearances. I thought they were stories inflated by tourists or veterans trying to impress newbies. Until that night. We received a radio alert at 7:42 p.m. A ranger, Mitchell, reported finding a body hanging from a tree near the El Portal Trail in Yosemite West. 5 minutes later, the transmission cut out. By the time we arrived, it was already dark. There were 3 of us, me, O'Connor, and the patrol leader, Diaz. At first glance, there was no body, just the remains of a destroyed camp, a tent slashed open, scattered food scraps, and a digital camera smashed against a rock. We checked the perimeter. There were marks on the ground, not clear footprints, but grooves, as if someone or something heavy had shuffled along. Branches up to 2 meters high were broken, which ruled out a common animal. There was no blood, but the air had a metallic smell, like when a slaughterhouse is being cleaned. At 9:05 p.m., we found Mitchell. He was in shock, sitting against a log, staring into space. He only spoke one sentence. He took him down. He took him down from the tree. We took him to the vehicle, and I asked permission to search the area where the supposed body was. I walked about 30 meters north. The flashlight began to fail. O'Connor joked, but Diaz said nothing. And then we saw the marks on the bark, 4 deep, parallel lines, as if made by a giant hand. Beneath them, pieces of blood-soaked cloth. We followed the trail a few more meters to where the ground opened into a small slope. It smelled stronger there. And then we heard the snap. It wasn't an animal. It was as if someone had broken a thick branch very slowly right behind us. I shone the flashlight. For an instant, between the trunks, a silhouette could be made out. Tall, upright, black against the darkness. The gleam in his eyes was the only thing moving. I didn't shoot. No one did. We backed away slowly, without turning our backs on him. When we got into the truck, Mitchell was still muttering the same phrase. We took him to the hospital in Mariposa. That same night, he resigned. In the official report, it was recorded as an unidentified animal attack. But what we saw wasn't a bear or a puma or anything that belongs to this valley. The security cameras at the outpost showed something at 10:14 p.m., a huge figure crossing the road holding something over its shoulder. The video was archived, and we were warned not to speak about it again. Since then, every time I patrol El Portal, I check the trees before looking at the ground. I don't look for footprints. I look for what's hanging.
I climbed into the valley in the late afternoon, alone. I wanted to camp near the Merced River and photograph the sky when it got dark. It wasn't my first time doing so, and I thought I knew every bend in the trail. But that night, the forest felt different, silent, as if the wind had gone. At 7:30 p.m., I set up my tent and lit a small fire. While I was heating up dinner, I heard something heavy hitting the ground about 100 meters away. It wasn't the dry sound of a branch falling. It was lower, slower, like the impact of footsteps shifting wet earth. I thought it might be a bear. I grabbed my flashlight and defense spray and advanced a few meters into the trees. The noise stopped, only the murmur of the river. I shone my light to the north and saw that several trunks had been uprooted, not cut, torn off. One of them was more than 30 centimeters thick. The next thing I heard was a strong smell, like mud mixed with meat. It wasn't a dead animal, it was something alive, nearby, breathing. I lay still. Then from behind a rock formation came a low growl. It wasn't long or loud, but it was deep enough to make the air vibrate. I felt the flashlight tremble in my hand. Then I saw movement. A huge shadow appeared between the trees, sat up, and took a step forward. Its silhouette was so large it blocked the firelight. Its arms reached almost to my knees, and the worst part was the way it breathed. Slow, steady, as if it smelled me. I didn't run. I turned off the flashlight and backed away slowly. When I lit the fire again, the sound was farther away. I didn't go back to sleep. Every half hour, I heard something in the distance, branches snapping, stones rolling down a slope, and every now and then, that short roar, as if something huge were walking around the camp, not getting quite close. At dawn, I gathered everything and went down. Along the way, I ran into a group of rangers. They asked me if I'd heard any strange noises. I told them I had. One of them looked at the other and jotted something down in a notebook. He said, "If you hear that sound again, don't look for it." And they continued on their way. Days later, when I reviewed the photos, I noticed something in one of the night shots. Behind the rocks, right where I heard the first bang, a dark figure can be seen. I can't see its face, but its outline is. Too big to be a man, too upright to be a bear. And although the rest of the landscape is blurred, the shadow seems to be looking right at me. Its head barely tilted, as if it knew I was watching it. Since then, every time I walk through a forest, I hear the footsteps before I hear them. And that sound reminds me that in Yosemite, there's something that isn't afraid to come closer when the fire is out.
The reports began on September 17, 2019. A hiker disappeared in the northern reaches of Yosemite Valley near Cascade Creek. Nothing unusual. At that time, the park receives hundreds of thousands of visitors, and temporary losses are common. But this time, the search lasted 4 days, and the dogs refused to move forward after the second. The first to report something strange was Ranger Martin Diaz. In his report, he wrote, "The canine units detected something heading northwest, but stopped. They hid behind me with their tails between their legs. It smelled of rusty metal, of a wet animal." No further details were given. The document was filed with the note, "Possible environmental interference." 3 months later, in January 2020, an independent film crew found a partially buried camera next to a log. The device still had a battery. In the last 30 seconds of video, a man is seen running through trees, breathing heavily. He turns the camera back. In the background, a figure moves behind him. Tall, dark, arms dangling in front of him. The sound isn't a scream. It's a deep exhalation, almost a snort. The recording ends with a thud and the sound of wind. The video was never released. It was confiscated by park authorities. An employee, who asked not to be identified, showed me a copy on his cell phone. He said the head of conservation had it deleted after viewing it. He didn't want another monster story in the headlines. When I asked him what he thought, he replied without looking at me. It wasn't a bear, and it wasn't a man. I checked the wildlife reports. There were multiple reports in the area of uprooted trees, destroyed campsites, and animal remains with unusual fractures. None were officially linked to a known predator. Authorities closed the investigation with a phrase that is repeated in the documents: attack of undetermined origin. The last testimony I obtained was from a volunteer with the search service. He said that one night, while they were camping near the river, they heard something moving uphill in the brush. They thought it was a deer until they heard the sound of rolling stones, as if someone were pushing them with their feet. When they shone their flashlights, they saw nothing, but the smell, that same smell of wet iron, lingered in the air for hours. In the valley, no one talks about it openly. Veteran rangers changed the subject.
New ones only receive an unwritten instruction: never patrol alone after dark. Some believe it's a legend to scare visitors. I believed it too, until one April night, reviewing thermal recordings from a park camera, I saw a shape move through the trees. It didn't have the thermal pattern of a bear or a human, just a huge, upright body walking slowly toward the river. And when it stopped in front of the camera, the sensor registered something impossible. The temperature dropped 2 degrees in less than a second. I turned off the monitor, and I understood why everyone prefers to leave the valley archives closed. I'll never forget the smell. It wasn't just blood or the early decomposition that floats through the pines at dusk. It was something more, a damp and sour mix, animal and earthy, that permeated every breath. I'd been a ranger in Yosemite Valley for 12 years, and that autumn afternoon seemed like just another one. Until I saw the fire. In the distance, an orange glow filtered through the trees. I approached, thinking it might be a careless camper, maybe one of those who thinks the park rules are a joke. But when we reached the clearing, the fire was out. Only the embers remained, and the silence. A ripped sleeping bag, a crushed lantern, and in the air, that smell. The lantern was still good. I shone it into the trees. There it was, hanging from a fir tree about 15 feet up in the air. A body. The camper. Or what was left of it. The skin on his face had been ripped away with brutal force. His chest was ripped open, as if something enormous had rooted inside, searching for warmth. There were no human footprints, only deep indentations in the earth, as if something heavy had been moving in circles, inspecting, enjoying itself. I radioed for backup, but the signal kept cutting out. There was only static, and something like a growl, very low, almost an echo. Then the trees began to creak. At first I thought it was the wind, but there was no wind. The entire forest was still, as if holding its breath. And then I saw it. Between the trunks, a shadow larger than any bear I'd ever seen. 2 eyes shone with a reddish gleam fixed on me. I didn't run. I couldn't. My legs simply wouldn't respond. The creature moved slowly, upright. It was over 8 feet tall, covered in dark, matted fur. Each step made the ground vibrate. When it passed near the body, it smelled it and touched it with grotesque tenderness. Then it raised its head and looked at me. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe seconds, maybe an eternity. A deep guttural roar ripped through my chest. And then, nothing. I woke up on the ground at dawn, the radio playing between my fingers and the body gone. They found no trace of the camper or of the fire, not even the marks in the ground, just a tuft of black hair, thick as a horse's mane, caught in the bark of the fir tree. And that smell, that damn smell that still wakes me at night, reminding me that something is still there, in the deep valleys of Yosemite, waiting for the sun to set so it can hunt again.